All right. Yeah, it's a little different time for me to be here on a live on what is today, Tuesday. Usually we do this around 11 a.m., but this actually worked best for our sheriff. Sheriff Jeff Dirkse, thank you for being here today.
Oh, thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, my pleasure. And congratulations about winning.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know it was a nail biter there.
Definitely. Yeah, it was a pleasant experience.
Well, I'm glad you're don't have to worry about it. You don't have to run anymore. It's over. That's got to be the worst thing is running for an office. You know, doing all the stuff you have to do. I'm sure there's worse things, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, but it's. I was thankful that we didn't really have to do that because from the office standpoint, it's just a distraction,
right?
Right. It's there's always a slight question mark, right? Even though I don't think too many people are overly concerned with the potential outcome, there is still just that kind of that drama that comes with it, and it defocuses staff a little bit. Even though for most of the folks on the day-to-day level, I don't think they really think about it all that much, but it does. It just creates kind of a, I don't know, potential friction, question mark, whatever. Right. And obviously with the way it all went down, it just let the office keep moving.
Right. Because there's nothing worse than who are you going to vote for inside of an organization? Yep, exactly. It tears it apart, potentially. And it's glad that all worked out.
Exactly.
So, all right. We talked you were on the radio last weekend, yep, and we had a lot of people comment about, thank you for coming on the radio and giving the information you did. What my question I really want to get into is, I don't want to talk. We have a lot of crime. We have some crime. I saw the other day that you guys arrested some people and they had a bunch of guns and some other stuff.
Yep.
Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
No. Because I don't remember exactly which case it was.
There's so many of them. Is that what you're saying?
Well, there are, so a lot of times I post stuff on social media, or the department does, but that's probably about 10% of what happens on any given day or any given week. Whether it's just capacity, right? I don't sit around on social media all day, and I could brag about everything that the department does, but then that's about all I would do all day too.
Right. You need somebody to do that for you.
Well, we do. I mean, internal to the department, we have a really good team that we have a whole crew that works that, but we try to do breaking news, if that's what you want to call it. But then they also have kind of a lot of kind of pre-planned content when it comes, say, to recruiting or whatnot, where we're trying to get some information out there. And so there's a lot of buzz. We just over the weekend, Monday. What day is today?
Today is Tuesday.
Maybe it was Friday, actually. Yeah. I think it was Friday. We just learned that SIU, the Special Investigations Unit, which is largely a lot of sheriff's office folks, but also folks from Series and CHP and parole and the DA's office. They got the WISN, which is the Western States Intelligence Network. That's the team of the year, if you will. And I don't have all their stats in front of me, but once they're going to get a little plaque, I'm going to post about it. I think the public will be dumbfounded by the amount of stuff that they have done in 2021. Most of it, people just don't see.
And I kind of want to get into what can people do? What do we need to worry about in our area? What can we do to help the sheriff department? What can we do to help? I know we talked a little bit about crime on the radio, nothing major, but what can you do to make yourself a little bit safer right now?
Yeah. So really a number of things.
And just so I want to let you know, when I look over here, I'm not ignoring you. I'm trying to see if anybody made comments who didn't make comments. Okay. And I'm saying that for the listeners also because I get complaints.
But a number of things. One is if you see something, report it, right? If you think something is suspicious, report it, and we're going to come and check it out. If there's no law violation, if you think, I don't know, is that my neighbor? Is that somebody breaking into my neighbor's house? Well, we'll sort that out real fast. If you see something, report it. Know your neighbors. That idea of a neighborhood watch, right? Everybody knows their block, their street, their cul-de-sac, their neighborhood. You know it better than I do. Even if I patrol that area regularly, the people that live there know it better. So get to know your neighbors, develop a relationship, right? Ed, if you're my neighbor and you're like, hey, I'm going to be out of town for a week, my brother's going to be over to, I don't know, water the dog or water the plants or feed the dog, water the dog, whatever.
We put our dogs away.
Okay. But
it's just, they have a better time when with somebody else.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying because
Yeah.
we tell our neighbors.
Yep.
I get it.
100%. And just let them know, hey, we're going to be gone. And then again, if they see something suspicious at your house, call it in, report it. Maybe call you first. Hey, there's a weird car there. And you're like, yeah, no one's supposed to be there. Call the sheriff's office, the PD, whoever. But neighborhood watch type of, just being good neighbors is one of the best things that you can possibly do. There's always these conversations about community policing, right? Now, I actually don't like that term because to me, policing is a community function. Law enforcement, our role is when people don't want to be policed, right? You call your neighbors having a loud party and they, hey, Bob, can you turn it down? We're all trying to get some sleep. Well, if he doesn't want to do that, well, now's the time to call us, right? Because then we're the mechanism that comes in and enforces that. So that becomes, that's kind of our role there. But policing is a community function, and it takes everybody to be involved. A lot of times, crimes like loud music complaints, right? Loud parties. Law enforcement can't be the victim of that crime. So like at the sheriff's office, if you call in, hey, my neighbor, it's midnight, he's playing loud music, but I want to be anonymous, we won't even respond because technically there is no law violation. I can pull up in front of his house, I can hear the loud music, but I can't be, as a cop, I can't be the victim of it. It takes the citizenry, the community, whoever called it in, they have to sign the citizen's complaint before we can legally take any action. And without that, we won't even respond. And there's a variety of crimes that are like that. Trespassing, it's not a crime if you don't sign the citizen's arrest or the complaint.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that because a lot of people will anonymously, I don't want them to know that I called down them. And let's say hi to somebody real quick. You wanted to.
Yes. Hello, David Michael Owens.
Yeah, he was one of your volunteers.
Yep, he is a great guy.
Yeah. So thanks for everything.
Yep.
All right, let's get back. I just wanted to acknowledge him so that he makes sure that we talk to everybody who comes on there.
Yep.
So because I know that we had, some complaints about a boat on the street and other stuff, and we didn't complain about it, but I told my neighbor, hey, you might want to move it because somebody might want to. And then the people across the street complained, but then they thought it was me. And it's like, no, I would have told you if I was complaining about your boat on the street.
There was something else that just popped into my, it's kind of this idea of I get that all the time. Oh, I don't want whoever to know that I called. Right. Well, I'll go back to policing as a community function. And so, when you say, what can people do to be safer? Honestly, have the courage to stand up for your neighborhood, your community, your street, whatever. But it takes courage. Rarely, I will never say never, but rarely do we actually see someone retaliate other than they might flip you the bird. They might yell at you, they're not going to send you a Christmas card the next year, whatever the case may be. But, rarely is there true retaliation.
Yeah, that's what my neighbor did. When he found out we were, because you told me how to deal with that trespasser that would come across your stuff, and then we talked to the sheriff up there, and he said, well, I had to get a restraining order against my neighbors coming across my property who you've been doing it forever, and they don't realize it. So we did it, and he flipped us off on the cameras. It's like, thank you. So now I can include that in the restraining order. Yep. That you did that.
Yep. So and it's unfortunate if
it's okay. Things happen. That's how life is.
Man. It is. Yeah. And, a lot of our job would go away if people just respected the law, respected their neighbors, the other folks in their community. So, courage, have the courage to stand up for your community. I think most folks know I'm a huge advocate of CCWs. You don't need it on your personal property, right?
Right. Or in your business, right?
Yep. It's yours.
You don't have to have a CCW, have a weapon at your business.
Correct. Yep. You can carry open, you can carry concealed. It's your property. But if you're going to get out on the street, moving from your home to your business, whatnot, there are ways to legally carry it safely, locked up, etc. But if you want access to it, get the CCW. I know here in Stanislaus County, we've made it as simple as we possibly can under the state law. If you don't like the state law, take it up with your legislators. Not me. I can't change that. But people should get a CCW. I know there's a lot of conversation in our country right now, once again, about guns and gun violence. But I will tell you from where I sit, we have about 8,000 CCWs out there in Stanislaus County, and Rarely, like when I say rarely, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, does someone use their weapon inappropriately. And they'll probably get it revoked if they do. We do revoke more than that, but usually it's for domestic violence or DUI.
All right, since we're still on CCW, all right. So the same guy just asked if if someone breaks into my house, you have the right to defend your property, correct?
Yes and no. So
always a caveat
there. Yeah, everything in my profession is. The answer to that is maybe. You have the
it depends.
Yes. You have the absolute right to defend yourself and to protect your property. Now, somebody breaks into your house and they're stealing your TV or whatnot. You cannot use deadly force to stop someone for stealing your TV for a property crime. It's only appropriate if it's a threat of death or great bodily injury, right? So now if that person that broke into your house, they come charging down the hallway at you with a screwdriver, a hammer, a gun, a knife, whatnot. Well, of course, because any of those implements can be used to cause death or great bodily injury. But if you confront somebody and they're fleeing off your property with whatever, and that they've stolen, again, the TV, your tools, something like that, no, you can't shoot them for that. Don't do that.
All right. So since we're on this, I have some more questions, but one of Joe Garcia has a question.
Yep. What's the police force doing to prevent illegal gun sales and smuggling? So from the sales like at a gun store, that really doesn't typically fall under our purview. That's going to be more under the state DOJ. They're the ones that monitor, the idea of like these straw purchasers and so on. That's kind of more in their arena. We don't typically do that. Where we come into play a lot is the truly illegal gun sales. And that's, I referenced SIU earlier, and we'll post about it, I don't know, next week, next month, sometime once we get it. But they spend a lot of time doing investigations, and I'm going to be a little vague on how they do it, but they look for those criminals that are out there selling guns on the street. Then they look for illegal drug. Basically, guns, drugs, and gangs are kind of their main focus. But we pick them up in a variety of ways. People might call them in. Hey, I think my neighbor's selling guns. We find it off of online in various ways, shapes, and forms, and we pretty energetically go after those folks, because that is where the buyers and the sellers of these kind of this criminal element, they can't go to a gun store. Right. They're because they're already a criminal. So
they won't pass the gun background check.
Yep, right. Exactly. They can't walk into one of the, Sierra Arms or one of the gun stores here in Modesto. They can't walk into there and buy a gun because they're going to be under law prevented from doing that. So they are going to buy them illegally. That's where a lot of these 80%ers come from. Someone has bought that 80% receiver and manufactured it into a gun. There's stolen guns, that are getting marketed. That too we go after, and virtually every week we are going after someone doing that. We don't necessarily catch them every week, right? And some of these are longer term ongoing investigations, but we are always going after folks like that. And those are the people that typically are out there using guns in crimes. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, right? We can see, I think the guy in Uvalde, Texas, right, bought the gun the day before, the week before. I don't remember the exact timeline. Bought it legally through a gun store, but that is definitely well into the minority, right? The folks that are using guns consistently in crimes are getting them illegally, or they are prohibited already by law from having them, and they've borrowed it from a friend, or whatever the case may be,
or stole it from the friend.
Yep, exactly.
And that's the thing about a lot of these gun laws. We have some of the strictest gun laws in California, right next to New York, and so the law-abiding people don't have don't do anything. But it's always the criminals who have the guns, who have the other stuff that we have to worry about. So it's not the laws that we have on the book; it's enforcing the laws, and it's really the issues that we deal with is mental illness that we have not dealt with. This month is the whole month is mental illness, really a PTSD for military too, and that's why I've been wearing the shirts this month. But one of the issues is if we don't deal with mental illness, we can't fix a lot of these problems.
100% agree with that. Mental health and mental illness is the number one challenge that law enforcement in our community faces, from where I sit. So in my opinion, and and it manifests itself in a variety of ways, right? It could be some crazy kid who turns into an active shooter type of thing. It could be domestic violence at home. It could be a gang member. It could be some homeless person, right? But mental health, if we can address that, we're going to solve a lot of these problems. When we talk guns specifically, I will tell you, I do not support any more gun laws. I just don't think that they're going to accomplish anything specifically in California, right? And I'm limiting my comments to what I see here in California. What I tend to see far more often is somebody who, they use a gun illegally, right? They shoot somebody, they threaten somebody, whatnot. They're already a criminal. They have already acquired that weapon illegally, and we don't lock those people up. We don't keep them in jail. We don't keep them in prison. There's just another individual that I have some data on. I haven't said anything about it publicly yet, but this guy was sent to prison for robbery, I believe in 2020, with 3-year prison sentence. I think he did 9 months in state prison, got out and was already reoffending while he should have been in prison. So if we're going to be serious about gun laws, then we need to keep people in prison. And, if they commit a crime with a gun, then keep them in prison.
So basically we need to build more prisons.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We absolutely do.
Because we just don't have enough. I don't want to say storage capacity because that's not the issue, but this is space. We don't have enough. So we have to, people who are not, are getting out on certain things shouldn't be, or we're not prosecuting certain things. And then they say the crime is down because we're not prosecuting on certain things.
Yep. And, that doesn't mean that I'm against rehabilitation. I think anybody in my profession would tell you we would love to have criminals rehabilitated and turned into, honest, productive members of our society. But until that person makes that decision for themselves that that's what they want to do, and then they partake of all of the various programs and services that are offered to get them, training on anger management or a vocation, or get their GED if they don't have a high school diploma, or some other kind of education. All of that is offered, but it's only going to work if they want it. I mean, it's just we can offer 10 times as many programs as we currently do. But if the criminals don't want to change their behavior, the programs are going to be irrelevant.
Right.
Then that's what we have to fix.
And I think a lot of it comes from the childhood, excuse me, them growing up, what they were around, that kind of stuff. I've talked to many people. I've interviewed many people on my other shows about, and Quinn Wan was one of them, who was in 15 years to life because he murdered some people. Right. Yeah. And then he actually, all the witnesses, he got it, whatever you call that, intimidated the witnesses, and he only got 15 to life, which usually meant you never get out in California.
Right.
But he actually changed his life while he was in, and helped so many people. They actually paroled him, which is unusual.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people they've changed around, but so it does happen, but
it does.
But it's not everybody's looking at that.
Yep. There's a man in Modesto, Michael Baldwin is his name. I'm not going to tell this story, but
I listened to him. He had a Rotary the other day.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's Michael's story to tell, but he has, in his prior life, has done some fairly significant things. And I would tell you, I would trust that guy with my life, right? He has been changed. And so it's absolutely possible. I would love it if they could all, if every person that came into my jail could end up like him. But until they decide that that's what they want, it's just a fact of life. They're not going to change. And if they're not going to change, then they need to stay in jail or in prison, so that they can't be out there hurting other people.
Now, with these, we're talking about mental illness. Is there any changes that you guys have done to deal with people with mental illness? I don't know if you deal with it that much in the county. I know in the city we have a lot of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would say that specifically in the city of Modesto, they probably deal with it at a higher ratio than we do. But we, of course, deal with it every day. And, the big thing right now is kind of this idea of alternative response models, right? Modesto is their MCERT program, I think is what they're calling it, where they're going to pair a clinician up with a cop, same car. They're going to respond to a lot of these calls. That I don't know if it's actually started yet or if it's in the process of starting. But it's a great idea, and I hope that it works. We are pursuing something a little bit different that should get approved in final budget for the county. And we are going to pair a clinician with an EMT in, I'll call it an ambulance, but it's not necessarily going to be like a full ambulance that you think of it. But not with a cop. And the reason is because of the geography that the sheriff's office services. It's just so much larger than any of our cities. We spend a lot of time driving around. And so what the intention is both, if you get the call of the crazy person somewhere, and they're yelling at the stop sign, they might be suicidal, whatever the case may be, both law enforcement and this team, crisis mobile unit, I think it's the CMU is that's kind of at least the working title. Both will be dispatched to handle that. If it's a law issue, the cop can handle it. And if it's just a mental health issue, then they'll turn it over to the CMU. They'll take it. The cop can go back to doing, cop work.
Right.
And so, slightly different model, kind of the same idea as the MCERT, just executed differently, again, based on the geography and the area that we have to cover. So by the time it's actually operational, right, if it goes live around October 1st, you're probably talking at least after the new year before it's fully operational. Because of course we all have to hire staff and equipment and training and so on to get there. But we are pretty optimistic that will help. But one of the challenges that we have is that, a lot of, like when we talk about this idea of alternative response models, whether it's this or something else, a lot of, your clinicians or whatnot, they're not going to respond to most things until a cop has made it safe. That's just the truth of the matter, right? Because if we get word that, this guy has a pipe, a pole, a stick, he's swinging it around, right? They're not going to want to go confront this guy and risk getting injured or killed. So it almost invariably will always come down to the cop getting that person into handcuffs or something and then turning them over. So,
and I think a lot of people don't realize, and I talked about this when you were on the radio, you got to walk a mile in their shoes. And I tell everybody, if you want to really know what happens, go out on, ride along.
Yep.
Right. Even though they're not going to take you to the crazy stuff, but at least go on a ride along, go see some of the stuff.
We'll take them to just about everything. We might not let them out of the car.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. But, no, I mean, as a deputy, I had citizen riders all the time. And I agree. It is one of the greatest things that a member of the community, whether you support cops, you think we're wrong, whatever, go do a ride along and just see what happens. See, how busy it might be, how slow it might be, how, all the questions that the cops, the deputy, the guy, the gal, they're asking, right? Because we have to meet certain legal criteria. I can't just arrest somebody because I don't want them around. They have to actually be breaking the law. So see a question on there. Someone says, how do I get a ride along?
It's your same gentleman.
Yep. Yeah. Simplest way to do it, you can email me directly through the sheriff's office website, sesdonline.com. There's a button on the homepage. It says email the sheriff, comes directly to me and me alone. Just say, hey, I want to go on a ride along. I will forward it to the right folks and they'll be in touch. There's, of course, we're in government, so there's some paperwork that has to be done. We'll get it scheduled and we'll get folks out on a ride along.
And you got to sign stuff in case you get shot that you're not responsible.
Yep,
right?
100% that you're doing this of your own volition. If you're taken hostage, et cetera, et cetera.
It's on you.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I encourage folks, do a ride along. Just come check it out sometime.
Because a lot of the clinicians, that I've seen a few things where they've gone to places and they were like forced it and they're like, I quit, I'm out of here.
Yep.
Because it's they finally realize how hard it is to deal with this on a daily basis, because we don't have anywhere for a lot of people like this to go with mental illness anymore.
Yep. Capacity. We are so lacking in capacity. It's not unique to Stanislaus County. It's statewide. A lot of folks are kind of familiar with the term 5150, right? So it's section 5150 of the Welfare and Institutions Code is where that title comes from. But that's what gives law enforcement the authority to detain someone for up to 72 hours, turn them over to the hospital mental health where they can be evaluated. There are 87 5150 beds in Stanislaus County. And there have been times, it's not frequent, but there are times where we will literally crash the system in a night or in a 24-hour period because so many people have been taken for 5150 that there is not enough capacity to hold them.
Full moons is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
full moons.
My wife's a nurse. So
Yeah,
she
Friday the
always says that.
13th on a full moon, it's going to be busy.
That's right. Yeah.
But so we just statewide, we need more capacity. And, the state talks about their $100 billion budget excess. Well, they could build and fund a lot of capacity with that, and it would be greatly needed.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say, well, they'd rather build affordable housing $1 million at a piece in San Francisco.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that tomorrow on the show in the morning, not today. All right. So we didn't even get into what we talked about on the radio because we've been on this whole, with crime and ride-alongs and special need, not special needs. I mean, with the mental illness. All right. So I have a couple questions I want to get into because we're coming into July 4th weekend, that whole week, and people use illegal fireworks.
Yeah.
Hold on. All right, let's go back to a question. Sorry, Mr. Owens. He took care. How is your employee turnover? Are you seeing enrollments decline?
I'm not quite sure what he means by enrollments on that one.
Well, I think he's talking about people
like
joining.
applications.
Yeah, exactly. I assume that's what he means.
Yeah, so our employee turnover is at, quite frankly, an all-time low. I think since I've been sheriff now, we have lost 3 or 4 deputies who have directly lateraled to another agency. So it's right at about 1 a year. Whereas, 5 years ago, it was 1 or 2 a month on average. So we are seeing an incredibly stable workforce at the start. Folks are coming there and they're staying there. Now we always have retirements.
Right.
We always have folks that decide they're going to move to insert state, right? They're going to Texas or Tennessee or Wisconsin or wherever they're going to move to, right? They're changing their life for whatever reason. That always happens. But we are not seeing this exodus that we used to see. In fact, quite the opposite. We are, I believe, we have the lowest vacancy rate in the county, I think, of all 26 county departments. Our vacancy rate right now sits at about 5% for the sheriff's office, and I think the county average is like 17% for all the public works and BHRS and all the various county departments. It's not a knock on them by any means. It's just that we're doing really, really well in terms of retention of staff, and we just have a great team. They do great work, and I like to think it's a pretty fun place to work. Now, when it comes to applications, we are seeing a reduction in applications for new applicants. That entry-level cop, whether they want to work in adult detention in our jail facilities or they want to work in operations out on the streets, we are just not seeing the number of applicants that we used to see. We expected this kind of after the protests of 2020 and kind of that national narrative, and it never came to fruition for a while. And then after, we all figured within 3-6 months or whatnot, we would see it hit. And it took about a year and a half. And now we've finally seen it drop off. I know in a meeting we had with MPD, they gave us some stats, and I'm sure ours are the same. I just don't have them in front of me, but I'm going to say it was 5 years ago, Modesto PD had like 2,000 applicants for that year, right? For all of their various openings. And at the current year, I don't know if it was 2020 or 2021, they had 650. And while I don't have I can't quantify it, I'm sure that our numbers are exactly kind of in line with theirs. We are just seeing the number of new applicants drop off, and it is such a competitive market right now that, there is a Bay Area agency, I don't recall which one, but for laterals, someone who's already a cop, they had a $30,000 lateral hiring bonus.
Wow.
And it's tough to compete with that kind of money.
Yeah. Sounds like my son in Anchorage, Alaska, re-enlisting. They're giving a $37,000 to re-enlist. And I'm like, it's because there's hardly anybody going in. And it's across the board. I just think there's less people looking for work that we've been through, and that's our issue. It's across the board everywhere. Same with Joe was joking about healthcare people, and it's the same thing with there. It's everywhere. It's a shortage of people. I see a change happening with the economy happening, and everything's going to go forward in the next 3 to 6 months as we go into a recession. More people will be looking for work because they've been laid off at other jobs, so they're going to go back into those kind of industries. So.
And I know, the military, typically when the economy is poor, the military typically sees recruitment it becomes much easier, and law enforcement is probably in the same boat.
Right. So we want to get into illegal fireworks. All right.
Yes.
So now one of the things you talked about on the radio short is the fact that you can't arrest somebody unless you see them actually lighting the fuse.
Yep. Under the California Penal Code, that's one of the criteria.
And then I asked you, if I videotape them, could you use that?
And the answer to that is a distinct maybe. It depends on the quality.
Dude, I'd make sure I use my 13. All right.
Yeah. You would probably have to sign the citizen's arrest because
I'd have no problem with that. They're going to try to burn my place down.
Yep. It's a misdemeanor not committed in our presence.
Which means nothing. Ticket, buy, you're not doing anything. Go ahead and light some more of them.
Well, so for law enforcement to make an arrest on a misdemeanor with a couple of exceptions, notably domestic violence, it has to either be committed in our presence, right? We have to physically see it. So, if I see you do petty theft from a store as a cop, I can arrest you because I saw you do it. If not, that store, right? You steal, I don't know, a beer run, right? A case of beer. The store has to sign the citizen's arrest.
But then that falls under the $950 rule.
Yeah, but it'd still be, it's still a theft. And so we can arrest for that, but only if the victim signs the citizen's arrest. So fireworks are the same thing. And so either we have to see it or someone has to sign the citizen's arrest and say that that's who we saw do it. Now, that doesn't mean we can't confiscate illegal fireworks because they are illegal. But usually what happens, right, and let's face it, on the night of the 4th, if you go sit on like the Hatch Road overpass, right, and you look out and it really in any direction, it's going to be an incredible fireworks display. So we'll see them. Oh, they're coming from the back of that house. So you try to get in the back of that house, and it turns out no, they're actually in the back of the other house that they back up to. By the time you get over there, they're done shooting them off. Or obviously you can never see who's actually doing it. So that becomes a challenge. Now, some of the cities in the county, they have various city ordinances that change that. So you could get a citation as the resident, as the property owner, for illegal fireworks coming from your residence. It does not matter who shoots them off or who's lighting them, but because you're the property owner, they're holding you responsible for it. And that is a much easier tool for law enforcement to use to enforce that. But it is prevalent. Trust me, I started getting the fireworks emails about a month ago. I'll get them until around the 1st of August, and then they'll pick up again mid-December, kind of going into the new year. And here's what everybody has to remember. It is illegal. You could run the risk of getting yourself arrested for it. And it's a massive fire danger.
Right. And if you start a fire on someone's house, now you're going to be responsible for that too, on top of it and all the damage from that.
Yep.
So but just don't do it, people.
Absolutely.
And especially right now, how dry we are and where we're going. Just please don't do it. And anything else you want to add before we go?
Let's see. I don't know. We
hit a lot of good stuff today.
We did. The board last Tuesday, a week ago today, the board of supervisors approved our new budgets, for the county.
Right.
And I will tell you that in our county, this whole notion of defund the police is absolutely not happening. The sheriff's office got the largest budget it's ever gotten. We received 31 new positions, 10 for our ops staff out on the field, 10 for our custodial staff. And we're actually going to get some more for them through other funds that are pending here in a little bit. And then 11 civilian positions for the office. Because obviously, as I add deputies, I have to have, HR support and time card support and analyst support and so on. So we've added some staff there. I just want to point out that, again, like I said, in our county, our supervisors, our county is committed to public safety, and they put their money where their mouth is, and they're really backing it. And I know I appreciate that because, as the sheriff, staffing is my number one metric that I look at. The more staff we have means the more we can do for our community and to keep our community safe. And so we've done a lot of great work in the last 4 years of restoring staffing, which we talked about earlier from that question that Joe Garcia asked. And, we're looking to add even more folks in the next, take about 12 years to fully onboard all that staff. Did I say 12 years? 12 months to fully onboard.
And you said 12 years. I was like, that's a long time.
12 months. It takes about a year.
I was going to say the state of California, should be involved with that then.
Yes.
That's why it's taken 12 years.
But no, it's great because it allows us to, like I said, do more to keep our community safe.
I appreciate you coming on today and giving us more information, especially what's coming up.
Yep.
I know you're a busy man, and thank you for taking care of our county.
Well, thanks, Ed. And like I said, happy to come on anytime.
And we'll have you constantly on every quarter.
Sounds
All right.
good.
All right, everybody have a great day and make it a good one. Thank you, Jeff.